What's up, Internet World? Today, I'm making a video about using MIDI Designer and using that to control a Behringer XR18 mixer. Previously, I made a video using MIDI Designer to control DMX lighting. And, well, let's look at the screen here. Just take a look at the MIDI Designer app. Now, if you can see on that app on the top left side, I have buttons that are designated. The top 8 buttons on the left are all to control the Behringer XR18 mixer. And now I'm going to demonstrate a couple things here. I found a very neat workaround for muting channels specific to specific buses or specific auxiliary outs. If you're familiar, some of you, that use the Behringer mixers or the Behringer XR18, you may have found that you wanted to mute something on an auxiliary out, or well, you may have found that if you mute a particular channel, it mutes it across everything. And so I've discovered or learned a way to a neat little workaround to be able to do that. And this was particularly useful to me in the situation that I'm in, and we'll get into that. But first, I just want to show you some of this control that MIDI Designer has. The vocal that you're hearing right now is coming through this mic. It's a KMS 105. What's the brand? Neumann. A Neumann KMS 105, and the mic is going through a TC Helicon Voice Live rack, which they don't make anymore, but they're awesome units, and really, really happy with the one that I've got, and I picked it up used. Now, if you see, if I click over here, I've got, on the right-hand side, I have MIDI controls to the Voice Live rack. So if I press some of these, you'll hear that in the sound. So if I get off the bypass, you're going to hear the reverb, delay, and modulation, and you can see those are lit up with a stronger green. And I'm not going to get into the Voice Live rack so much, but just to show you what's possible, and that this application, MIDI Designer, has a lot of application. All right, so if we get into the XR18 side of things, you can see I've set up a house mute, a mic mute, a main mute, and an instrument mute. Now, all these are, like I said, on the Behringer XR18 mixer. Now, the way I have the mixer set up is that is controlling my front of house sound, the sound that's actually going to go out to my live environment through my PA. That's not controlling the sound that is going to you, to my video recordings or to my live stream. And so I've got that set up within my rig here, where the sound is being routed in 2 different directions, and the XR18 is that point at which it goes out to the main mix, the front of the house, the PA. So if I press these buttons, you're not going to notice anything, but the house mute is just for channels 15 and 16. It mutes them across everything on my Behringer XR18 mixer, and those channels I've set up as a USB port for background music through iTunes. And then my mic mute is to mute the mic across everything on my Behringer XR18 mixer. The main mute is to mute the mains, and the instrument mute is to mute the instruments. Now, I've set up these next 2 buttons all on and house mic off, and this is where we get to something kind of interesting. So the way that you can see this is you can see the levels here. If I switch to this different view here, if I play, right now you can see the levels bouncing up on the left-hand side. That's a view of my iPad. So my iPad is running an app called Mixing Station, which is a fantastic app for running the Behringer XR18 mixer, and in fact, I think it has application to a ton of different mixers. But mixing station, it works. It's worked great for me for running the Behringer XR18 mixers. So highly recommended with that. So that's the app that I'm using. I'm looking at it through my iPad here. Now, so you can see on channels 13 and 14, that's where my microphone is coming through. The microphone is in a stereo signal, left pan, left and right, and I've linked those channels. Now 15 and 16, like I said, are for iTunes. So so you guys can't hear that, but I started playing sound through iTunes or for the music, Apple Music, and you can see the signal in channel 15 and 16. But that's all. That sound is all being routed through the Behringer XR18 mixer, and that way, when I put on house music, it doesn't play to my live stream or play to my recorded video, and that way I can still talk to people. So, what I wanted to set up was the ability to turn off the mic only for the PA, and these functionalities on MIDI Designer are extremely useful to me in the fly of the moment, and in particular to have everything consolidated onto one window that I can put pretty small and still be able to access everything on the computer. What I wanted to be able to do is turn off this mic to the house, be able to throw on the house sound, but then still be able to communicate to my videos or to my live stream through this same mic. That way I don't have to set up a separate mic that I have for that purpose, but I can quickly press a button to do that. Behringer XR18 mixers don't seem to have a real a clean way to do that. You would think you'd be able to just hit mute on specific channel or on specific buses, on channels on specific buses, but it's not possible. It mutes across everything. So a way to do that is actually to create snapshots and save those snapshots. And so if I load in to a particular venue and I get the mix that I like, I'm going to save that as a snapshot, and then I'm going to on my house outs, which I have set to be mix 3 and 4 and mix 1 and 2. And so if I hit here to the mix, you can see mix 3 and 4 and mix 1 and 2 are both stereo linked. And so what I can do is I can go to those mix 3 and 4, and I can take the volume of channel 13 and 14, which is my mic, and take it all the way down. So now I'm going to show you by just hitting my button on the MIDI Designer. So if I hit house mic off, you'll see those faders jump all the way down. And if I toggle back, it's going to pop back up. So what we do is go into the snapshot, which is this little folder icon on the top right. We'll hit that, and then we go into snapshots. And then all I have to do is for main mix on, which I've got those mics on, I would just press and hold on that. And then it asks me if I want to save. So I'm going to go ahead and save that. I'm going to save it as main mix on. And then I've got that configured. And so then the main mix off, or the house mic off. The main mix, for me, I've set that up. That's what's going into my headset. It's routed into a 6-port headphone amp. That main mix, I always want that mic to stay on because that's not going out to the house. That's going into my headset. And I want to be able to hear me speaking. It helps me understand what my volume level that's going out to you. And so if I switch over to mix 3 and 4, you can see those, then channel 13 and 14 is off. So if I toggle this, you'll see it goes back on. Those faders go back on, I toggle it back off. And so that is actually this really neat workaround where I can save that volume setting, whatever mix. Really, I just want to leave it the same. I've got my mix dialed in, and I don't really want to change it. All I want to change are the auxiliary out levels. But I know my particular situation is unique, but that fundamental of being able to use those snapshots and being able to use MIDI Designer to trigger those things, it's a pretty cool way to get some quick access of control over your Behringer XR18 mixer. And so I've shown it in a previous video, but we're going to go into it here on this video because it's the only way you'll understand. I mean, if you didn't see the other video, then you'll need to understand this. So the way that the MIDI Designer works, how it communicates with the Behringer XR18 mixer. And you can go up, if you have the Behringer XR18 mixer, you need to go get the user manual, which you can download online. You can do a quick Google search at Behringer XR18 mixer user manual, find the PDF, very, very easy to find. And then you'll scroll down to the MIDI section in the user manual and find the numbers that you need to know in order to route these. So for the mic mute, my mic, as I've said, is going through channels 13 and 14. So if I look at mic mute, you're going to see I've named it. I double-clicked on it to look at the properties, basically the control windows for this, how I can edit it. And in order to get there, I hit more, and then design. And then we double-clicked on mute. And so mic mute is set as a toggle subtype. There's many different subtypes that you could choose. I think toggle is probably the most common one that you're going to want to use. But it's an extraordinarily powerful app. So if we hit MIDI in the MIDI tab down below, you can see I've set the channel CC to channel 2 and CC control change 13. If we so that's what the message type is a control change. So if we click in here, you can see it's you can select different channels, and then you can select the control change. So we've got channel 2, control change 13. To the faders are on the Behringer XR18 mixer are assigned to channel 2, and in MIDI, and so the mutes are actually assigned to the mutes are assigned to channel 2, and I believe the faders are assigned to channel 1. And so the mutes for channels 13 and 14 on the mixer are MIDI channel 2, CC 13, and CC 14. Now, since I have channels 13 and 14 stereo linked, anything that happens to one channel is going to happen to the other. And so all I have to do is send a MIDI message to the mixing channel 13, and it will also happen on channel 14. So my mic mute button is only for that one channel, but that's all I need. So that's how you set up that button. If you don't know how to create a button, you just are in design mode, and then you press on the outside space. I accidentally exited design mode. But if I press on this outside space, you can see you can create a button, you can create a knob, you can create a slider. There's a bunch of different things you can create. You can add different amounts of them. But we're going to go to config so you can understand. You would also need to set what your hardware or virtual destination is. So you can see I've got Voice Live Rack, XR18, and DAW MIDI selected as my destinations. And so, you know, since I'm trying to communicate with the XR18, I need to make sure that that's selected there. And so then MIDI Designer is going to send, if I press this mic mute button, it's going to send MIDI data, the MIDI data of channel 2, MIDI channel 2, control change 13. It's going to send that to my Voice Live Rack. It's going to send that to my Behringer XR18 mixer, and it's going to send it to the DAW MIDI DMX lighting device. Sends it to all of them. But the DAW MIDI DMX device only knows, I've set it so that it only knows how to interact with MIDI channel data that's on channel 14 or channel 9, I think is what I've set it. And the Behringer XR18 mixer, I don't know if it's customizable actually, but if it comes ready to receive MIDI data for channel 1, channel 2, or channel 3, and has different settings that it already came with that's in the user manual that you can look into. And then the Voice Live Rack is customizable, and so I set it to channel 12. And so even though this MIDI data of MIDI channel 2, control change 13, goes out to all the devices, only one device actually knows how to interact with it. And so then there's the only change that happens is in that one device. It doesn't seem that there's any way to configure MIDI Designer to only send a MIDI signal to a specific device. I mean, you could do that if you only wanted MIDI Designer to communicate with one device. You could set that the virtual or hardware destinations, you only pick one, and then that's one way to do it. But if you want MIDI Designer to be able to communicate with many different devices, then I think the only way to do that without sending MIDI signals that cause things to happen in your devices that you don't want to happen, the only way to do that is if each device can be customized to only respond to specific MIDI channels. And so, anyway, I hope that's useful to you. And yeah.